Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today as for this webinar on how to fuel your nonprofit career with an advanced degree in animal law, which is being brought to you by the Center for Animal Law Studies at Lewis and Clark Law School, where our mission is to educate the next generation of animal law advocates and advance animal protection through the law. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce our primary speaker for today, Professor Cynthia von Schlichten, who's also an animal law LLM from Lewis and Clark. I myself am Reddy, the director of the animal law program, and also with us today is Professor Megan Senatori, who's also CAL's associate director. Just as a little bit of a presentation overview, Cynthia will be talking about her experience as an animal law LLM candidate, in addition to her efforts post-graduation. And then Professor Senatori will be discussing some of the work that some of our other alumni in action are doing, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Please, as the presentation is going on, don't hesitate at any moment to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. And you can do that during any time during the presentation. And we've set aside ample time at the end to address those questions. So with that said, Cynthia.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today to talk to you a little bit about the program, the Advanced Animal Law program at Lewis and Clark. I went to law school with the goal of working in animal law. That was what I wanted to do. And when this program came about, particularly when I learned about the online program, because I don't live in Portland, it was a dream. It was a whole program about animal law. Every single class is about animal law, which is just amazing considering law school is one or two electives, maybe if you're lucky. So it was very exciting. When I started the program, I was a staff attorney at the nonprofit Farm Sanctuary at the time. And obviously the program interested me because this was my focus, but also just from an advocacy perspective, I wanted to learn all I could about animal law so that I could be the best advocate possible in sort of the legal world. And that included learning about animal law in other countries, because I think the work being done globally is relevant everywhere you are, because we're all one world at the end of the day. And I think everything is really interconnected. So it's really important to learn about not only the laws in other countries, but about the challenges that animal advocates are facing in other countries. So I was really excited to do that. My time as a student in the Lewis and Clark community, I really felt like I was part of the community. I feel as though the professors and administrators of the program at Lewis and Clark really make an effort to make the online students feel like they're part of the Lewis and Clark community. You're not just an outsider who's taking classes that are somehow connected to Lewis and Clark. You really go to Lewis and Clark. And I definitely felt that way. I also felt that the administrators of the program were very nurturing and really sort of hear students about any kind of challenges they have with the program or suggestions they might make about ways to improve the learning or whatever the case may be. And I think that's really amazing. I can't even think of an educational experience I've had anywhere else where that was so much the case. With regard to the coursework, I felt like it was challenging, but manageable. So, it's an advanced degree and that can seem daunting, but I do feel like the teaching and the presentation of the coursework makes it manageable even with a full-time job. I was working as a staff attorney at Farm Sanctuary, so I definitely had a full-time job. And I was still able to make it work. And, there were times when it was more to do than other times if I was particularly busy at work or at home or whatever the case may be. But I would say throughout the program, it felt very manageable to me, albeit challenging. And I learned so much about animal law, like, again, from a global perspective, which was really what I was thinking. And I really don't think I would have learned as much about the global aspect of animal law if I hadn't been in this program. I might have learned it other ways. Of course, the information is out there. But this was really a great opportunity to sort of have all of that, and not that I've learned everything by any means, but to have, this great foundation for global issues kind of in one place from experts on the issues. So that, I mean, it was just really ideal in that regard. And the program also increased my knowledge of US issues, particularly those that are outside of my field of expertise. I work for farm sanctuary, so not surprising. I'm probably, if I picked an area of law I'd be most knowledgeable about, it would probably be industrial animal agriculture. So not that I know everything about industrial animal agriculture, but that is certainly the area I'm probably most knowledgeable about. And I did learn something about that area as well. There's more to learn, but I've also learned a lot in the program about US issues such as companion animal issues or crimes against animals. Those are areas that I don't see as much day to day. So I was really a great opportunity to learn more about those things or those areas of law. In general, I would say the program just really widens your world. And not only do you have these professors who are teaching you fields that they're, areas of law that they are very, that they know a lot about, excuse me, it's Monday, that they know a lot about, but also you're learning a lot from your classmates as well. The people in the class are amazing, and you have classmates from all over the world, all different backgrounds. But the beautiful thing is that everyone is there because they want to learn more about this area. They want to learn more about animal law and have this advanced program. So that's a really amazing thing. And you can just meet so many amazing people and learn so much about the world. And that's globally, but even across the United States, it's a big country. And there's, a lot going on in different parts of the country that you may not even be aware of. So you can have an opportunity to learn about those things as well. So overall, I would say it was an amazing opportunity. I loved the program. And normally when you're done with a program at school, you're like counting the days till you're done. And I didn't really feel like I was counting the days. I just genuinely enjoyed it, every minute of it, and felt so honored to be part of it. And now that I've been through the program, I have became General Counsel at Farm Sanctuary about a year ago. And I think having this program and this level of dive in legal issues has helped me in my work at Farm Sanctuary, but also the program overall has just left me, again, not only more knowledgeable about various animal law issues in my field of expertise as well as outside, but I think the program also has given me confidence to sort of take more chances in promoting animal advocacy. So I'm more inclined to reach out for speaking events. I'm more inclined to sign up to participate in writing a newsletter or being on a publication or something like that. I think of a few opportunities I've had in the last year that I don't know that I would have had if I hadn't gone through this program. And I definitely don't know that I would have had the confidence to say yes to them if I hadn't gone through this program. So it really, really has had a really big impact on myself, not only as a legal professional, but just as an animal advocate. And again, it's just an immense opportunity to meet and talk with others who are dealing with animal law in other countries, in other states, and issues that you may not even be aware of. And I'm so honored to know those individuals, and those individuals from my classmates are now, my contacts, and I can follow the amazing work that they're continuing to do. So we're going to go to the next slide. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a course I am teaching in this program this fall. I'm so honored. I just can't believe the opportunity. It's amazing. But I'm actually teaching a class called Nonprofit Animal Law. And this class is really coming off the heels, or I'm drawing on my expertise, not only as having been an attorney for more than 10 years or 14 years now, but also my work at Farm Sanctuary in particular, my work as General Counsel. And the point of the class is sort of twofold. On one hand, I want to hopefully give students kind of an idea of what kind of challenges they can encounter in running a nonprofit. And that would be whether you're an in-house counsel lawyer for the nonprofit, or you're not a lawyer, but you're, say, the executive director, or you have some sort of leadership role where a lot of the challenges that come through that nonprofit on a day-to-day basis come on your desk. And it sort of gives the students an idea of what they can kind of expect and how to sort of navigate those challenges, or to have an understanding of how to begin to navigate them. But also the second reason why I think this class is important is I'm hoping to inspire our students. I want people to decide they want to go into this work, especially for lawyers. I think it's very easy, or comparatively in my experience, it's easy to get a job in a law firm. You can almost always find a job in a law firm. And if this is something that you're really interested in doing, I'm hoping that by taking the class and taking the tools that I'm trying to give the students and taking the inspiration I'm hoping to impart, that they come away saying, we're going to go for it. We want this to be, you know, our focal point in our career. We care about animals. That's why we're in this program. And now we want to devote our careers to nonprofit. That's what I'm hoping. Obviously, not everyone goes on to work for a nonprofit, but if I can instill some of that inspiration in you, I will feel like I've done part of my job at least. So some of the issues that get talked about in the class include nonprofit structure, both US and globally. This is a global program, so I really try to fold in as many global issues or components as possible. So nonprofit structures, US and global. Also insurance. Nonprofits need a crazy amount of insurance. So that's definitely part of the conversation. Contracts are a big part of the conversation when you're running a nonprofit. Fundraising, of course, almost every nonprofit can't live without fundraising. And then in-house litigation issues and human resources issues, intellectual property challenges, and then also things like advocacy litigation, which is litigation where you're trying to further the mission, basically, through litigation. So talking about those issues, and then also just sort of general ethical considerations of working in an in-house counsel at an animal nonprofit, and sort of figuring out the line between representing the organization and not necessarily representing the employee who is working for the organization. It can get a little tricky. So hopefully sort of shedding some light on those challenges as well. But again, I hope the program, the class rather, is, like I said earlier, challenging but manageable, and also provide students with some tools to sort of lead the way in a particular nonprofit, and also inspires them to take that path professionally. And thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Megan Senatori, and I'm the Associate Director at CALS. And if you study with us in the online program, our paths may cross in companion animal law or animal law trial advocacy, which are both courses that I teach. So I wanted to take a few moments to talk about a few of our alumni in action. We have many, so this is just a small highlight. But I wanted to start with a few of our alumni who are working in nonprofits like Cynthia is, and then I'll turn to some of our alumni who have founded nonprofits that they're working in. So first I wanted to highlight Jessica Chapman. She is one of our LLM alumni from 2021. She is now the Criminal Justice Program Fellow at the Animal Legal Defense Fund. And there she addresses crimes against animals. They partner with stakeholders across the criminal justice system to resolve both the impetus and the impact of animal cruelty. Jessica received our Outstanding Animal Law LLM Graduate Award in the year she graduated, and is doing great work here in the United States. If you could change the slide. Tony Guerans is another of our alumni. He is a South Africa alumni from 2019. He's the executive director of the African Operations for Humane Society International. He also serves as the legal advisor on the Cape Animal Welfare Forum. Not noted on the slide, but we have a global ambassador program where we select some of our alumni who are doing innovative projects in animal law and animal protection. And Tony has been one of our alumni that was selected for a global webinar that he did with another of our alumni. They worked on that together. He's also served as the trustee of the Humane Education Trust and helped a farm animal sanctuary in Frankencheck. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. So that's some of the type of work that Tony is doing as an executive director within a nonprofit. You can go to the next slide. I wanted to highlight one of our MSL alumni. For those who aren't aware, we may have some people who are here today due to interest in our MSL program. Last year, we welcomed our first class of animal law MSL students, and these are non-lawyers who are interested in specializing in animal law and animal protection work. And so we don't have very many graduates through the program yet, given that it just started, but Brigida Wahlberg is one of them. And she is a graduate from Finland, and she's also a university lecturer in public law at Abo Akademi University in Finland. And some of the really cool work that Brigida is doing is that she has been working on a collaborative project with a group over in Finland to add fundamental rights for animals into the Finnish constitution. And it is not just a pipe dream. She actually has a legislator there a member of parliament who introduced the measure, and they have now secured the 50,000 signatures to move forward. So that's the type of work that she's doing with her MSL degree. You can go to the next slide. Diego Plaza is another one of our global ambassadors, and he founded a nonprofit called Seda Chile. He founded two nonprofits, actually, Seda Chile and the Interspecies Justice Foundation. And through those nonprofits, he's doing an array of different work. Some of it is litigation to free Sendai, who is an orangutan who is captive at the Chilean Zoo. And then most recently, he has put together a dossier of animal studies with works from 18 authors from Argentina, Chile, Mexico, Spain, and more. So that's a little bit about Diego. Next slide, please. And I think this is the last slide that I've featured, but Gladys Kamasano is one of our wonderful LLMs. She graduated in 2020 and joined us from Uganda. Gladys is the head magistrate of Africa's first and only specialized wildlife court. And in that role, she adjudicates wildlife cases involving illicit wildlife products. She was recently featured actually in the Guardian magazine Guardian newspaper, for her innovative work in this space. And while she was a student with us, Gladys also founded a nonprofit called Help African Animals, working with Professor Russ Mead, who is one of our professors here at Lewis and Clark. Through that nonprofit, she recently drafted a compendium of Ugandan animal welfare laws, and Gladys did that work as one of our global ambassadors as well. If you could go to the next slide. This is just an overview of our advanced degree students. We have more than 100 students and alumni, I should correct the slide there, and these are the countries they represent. So as Cynthia said, it really is a global program. We are welcoming people from all over the world who come here, study with us, and then from the US or abroad, take what they learn with us and work to advance animal protection and animal law in their home countries. If you could turn to the next slide. For those who are not already connected with us in other spaces, I just wanted to emphasize that we are on all of the social media platforms listed down there. We also have a quarterly newsletter that you can sign up for, and we like to share all of the wonderful work that our faculty and alumni and staff are doing here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. So that's the best way to connect with us. So with that, I am going to open it up for Q&A, and you may put your questions into the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Questions are welcome directed to any of us or all of us, and they can be about Cynthia's presentation or about what it's like to study in the program beyond what Cynthia talked about, questions about what she presented. And I should note that our next deadline for the applications for the spring start for our online advanced degree program is October 8th. So with that, let's see if we have any questions. And why don't I will kick us off for some, because it usually takes a little bit for questions to come in, but I'll direct this one to you, Dr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy is both our animal law director of the animal law program, as well as an assistant professor of animal law. Dr. Reddy, what should students expect if they apply for the program? What kind of people are we looking for applications? What are some strong qualities and other types of attributes of the students that we are looking for to admit in the program?
Sure, and that's a great question. And it's a question I get a lot, and the answer is, having served on the admissions committee for several years now, we really take a holistic look at all of the applications that come in, and so we have applicants who, like Cynthia, have been in the animal protection space for a decade or more, but we also have candidates who might have been working in some sort of field, whether legal related or not, or who may have just graduated from undergrad with their bachelor's. But one of the things that we're really looking at is, do they have sort of a passion for this work? Do they have some sort of vision for how they see our program, and in particular our curriculum, giving them the tools that they need to succeed in whatever sort of advocacy type work or scholarship or research or policy work that they're looking to undertake, post-graduation. And so in particular with the development of our animal law MSL program, which again is a degree for non-lawyers, we've had candidates who come to us with a background in sort of veterinary practice or policy work, and again in a non-animal law related field. We also have a number of folks who applied to the program after having retired from whatever work that they were doing before, and really want to dedicate their retirement years to advancing work on behalf or with a nonprofit, potentially serving on their board. But they really look to the program to, again, equip them with the knowledge, the expertise, and, particularly with Cynthia's course, sort of allowing them to better appreciate some of the ins and outs of what a nonprofit sort of faces on a daily basis, but also in the long term. So again, it really runs the gamut. And with the vast array of courses that we offer, students can somewhat decide how they want to specialize in the program.
Great, thank you for that. And we have a follow-up question from someone in the audience who is asking, excuse me, about the acceptance rate for the MSL program.
Sure. And, as Professor Senatori noted in her remarks earlier, the MSL program is really new. We launched it just last year, so it's difficult to say at this point. But the nice thing about particularly the online program is that, seats are sort of virtual, and so there's no sort of physical capacity that we have to sort of take into account like we do with our in-person program. But we also, when we're admitting students, are really trying to look at what is that faculty to student ratio, because you do feel it necessarily in the online space as well. And one of the sort of heartening things to hear from Cynthia's presentation is just how close she felt in terms of her relationship to not just her faculty professors, but also to the administrators. So again, it's a little hard to say at this point, but it's in the past year or so been somewhere close to 65 to 70 or so %.
Thank you for that. And those are good qualifications about the program being a new program that it is a more challenging question to answer. So thank you. Sticking with the MSL topic, someone in the audience would like to know, are all MSL students qualified for scholarships?
Yes, absolutely. So a couple of important notes to point out. One, our spring admission cycle will end this October 8th. And so as long as a student applies or an applicant applies by the application deadline, they are automatically considered for all scholarship support that we offer. And in the past, that's included both partial and full scholarships. So, whatever sort of funding that we're able to offer, and a lot of that comes from sort of donor support, we pass along to students from that particular applicant pool.
Great, thank you. I want to ask a question for Cynthia, which is more a big picture question about the subject matter of your topic. The person is a lawyer from Brazil and a retired police officer, and they're just looking for sort of an overview of basically how nonprofits work in the United States in terms of oversight, to make sure nonprofit operations are meeting, mission objectives and things like that. So I'm sort of paraphrasing the question, but could you talk a little bit about that topic?
Sure. It's a big topic.
It is, I know. Not a fair question from me, sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I would say, a lot of that depends on the type of nonprofit they are. Nonprofits can be incorporated, they can be limited liability companies, they can be charitable trusts. And then even within that, then you look at tax exemption, which is kind of where oversight really lives, I think. Primarily, and in the US, there are, I think, 29 501c tax exemptions, but for our purposes, the 501c3 is the most popular, and that's overseen sort of by the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, and there is a list of criteria sort of that you have to meet, and knowing when you would sort of be in violation of that and when you wouldn't would jeopardize your tax exempt status. And that's kind of where oversight would come in, I think, because jeopardizing the tax exempt status would greatly impact the ability to get donations and obviously be tax exempt. And so the sort of criteria, some of the concerns you list here, again, it's like a lot to dive into, but some of those would fall under that category. And so a nonprofit would really have to make sure that they were being compliant in order to maintain their status. And that's sort of where oversight would live. A lot of it comes down when it's not a 501c3 or it's just a nonprofit that someone just decided to create, and there's less oversight, but of course, there's also less opportunity for donations, and most nonprofits can't survive without donations. So that sort of almost takes care of it in itself in some way. That's a super basic answer to a pretty involved question, but I'd say take the course and you'll learn more.
Hey, that's a great entree for the type of things you would learn in the course if you join us.
Right, exactly.
That's great. I want to turn to there are a couple questions we received that relate to courses in the program. So the first one is, do you have any courses that cover animal activism and or open rescue cases and laws? So Dr. Reddy, I'll direct that question to you.
It seems like, Cynthia, you might want to speak to this one also.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I was just going to say, I do address, I mean, it's not the whole course, obviously, but I do spend time addressing rescue and open rescue in my course.
And I likewise do in the animal law trial advocacy in the online program.
In advocacy, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say too, all students who come through the program, unless they've taken sort of an animal law survey course in the US prior to coming into the program, they take our animal law fundamentals course, which covers things like ag-gag laws, which are laws that attempt to criminalize covering and revealing what happens behind some of these closed door settings, as well as sort of open rescue issues and the like. So pretty much all students will be introduced to and engage in a lot of these particular questions.
Thank you. A similar question about course content, someone who's interested, oops, sorry, the question just disappeared on me, in specializing in animal-related topics. They're particularly interested in horse-related topics, and they're wondering, do courses cover, for all animal topics, liability questions or contract law? So Cynthia, I think you can probably speak to that one as well.
Yeah, it's definitely I can say that my course spends a decent amount of time on contract law. Contract law is so prevalent to running a nonprofit, and that goes across the board for all issues, but certainly would include any horse-related issues, and yeah, that would definitely be part of my class.
Someone has asked the question, and both of you can speak to this very well, but are the lectures for the MSL live or are they mostly recorded? And I'm going to broaden the question to just ask you, could you talk about what the experience of the online program is like in terms of course delivery for all students? Because it is a fully asynchronous program. So I can start with you, Dr. Reddy, and then Cynthia, I'm sure you may have some things to add.
Sure. And as Cynthia noted, the program is global in nature, and so you'll have students who are in every part of the world, and so all of the lectures by nature are recorded so that we can offer it as an asynchronous program, and so students, engage in assigned readings, they watch recorded lectures, they participate in discussion boards each week, and there might be some other sort of small assignments sprinkled throughout the semester. There may be a final exam or sort of final memo or series of memos for a particular course, but everything is sort of designed so that students like Cynthia, who have sort of a full-time job, can negotiate doing the work on their schedules in a weekly schedule that makes sense for them. I don't know, Cynthia, if you want to speak more to that.
Yeah, yes, you generally just have a couple of deadlines that you have to adhere to each week, and then beyond that, you can kind of just do the work whenever you want, as long as you can hit those deadlines. And then as far as like, I don't know if this is part of the question really, but I think it's so important is even though the lectures are asynchronous and your professor is still very much like a person who's part of the class. So you can reach out to your professor and communicate with them. They will reach out and communicate with you, whether that be individually or on the discussion board, but it's very much still a live relationship, even though their lectures are pre-recorded. So I just want to mention that. I think that's an important part as well.
Thank you for mentioning that, Cynthia. I think it's very important. We're all still available for office hours. We do those by Zoom, given that it's a virtual program, but that's a great point that you made. Thank you. This next question is from someone who's a veterinary in veterinary forensic medicine and would like to know whether we feel that type of background would be helpful in the MSL program. And I can very quickly say yes. Mm-hmm. I'll let Cynthia and Raj, Dr. Reddy, speak to that further.
Yeah, I would just say that I have a veterinarian in my class this semester, and it is amazing to have that sort of perspective. And yeah, I think it would be incredibly helpful to have in veterinary forensic medicine. I mean, I want to just talk to you right now. So having you in the class would be wonderful. And I'm sure, you would learn a lot and the other students would learn a lot as well.
Yeah, we really do have students, particularly with the creation of the MSL program, from all different disciplines, some of them sort of animal related, some not, but everyone brings something unique to the discussion, to even sort of the purview of their professors. And so I found myself time and again really inspired by the additional sort of knowledge and expertise and insights that students bring to the program. And so, again, to echo the previous comments, yes, absolutely.
And I will just echo what my colleagues said by adding that I taught the animal law trial advocacy class this summer. And that was the first time that I've had MSL students in my class because we had just launched the program. The contributions that MSL students make are so valuable and they help to enrich the discussion that we have. I feel like the addition of MSL students to the classroom has really benefited the lawyer students as well as me as a professor. I echo what my colleagues said. Let me go to, there's a question about whether you, and I'm going to characterize the you as professors or faculty, have affiliations with AZA, CITES, UN, or IUCN. So maybe I'll direct that question to you, Dr. Reddy, since you teach our international animal law class, and you can speak to what students would study about that in our program.
Sure. So we have a global wild animal law course, and I teach our international animal law course. And so we engaged with a lot of the most recent sort of developments within the associations of zoos and aquariums and CITES, UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the like. And so students are engaging in these issues, and some of our professors, work in some of these spaces. So for example, Erica Lyman, who teaches our Global Wild Animal Law course, attends the CITES conferences every other year, and sometimes takes students and or alumni with her to learn more about sort of the goings on at these conferences or COPs. I myself have certain relationships, sit on certain international boards that are sort of animal law focused. So, but in terms of the Center for Animal Law Studies and Lewis and Clark, we do not have formal affiliations with any of these entities. So we're a standalone sort of animal law educational organization housed within Lewis and Clark. But certainly students in the program engage with the work that these entities are doing.
Thank you for that. I'm going to switch to a couple questions related to scholarships because we have several. One is, could you give an idea about what the tuition fees are if a scholarship was not awarded?
Sure. So if you go to our website, you'll see a link to tuition and fees. And I think right now for the 2023-2024 academic year, it's approximately $2,079 per credit. And I know that's a pretty hefty price to be paying. And so we at the Center for Animal Law Studies, through our scholarships, try to offset those costs as much as possible if a full tuition award isn't possible.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that, another attendee would like to know whether additional documents addressing an applicant's request for scholarship should be submitted, and part and parcel of that, is there criteria available to reference for students wishing to receive scholarships?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And what I'll say is that as long as a student, an applicant applies by the deadline, they're automatically considered. No additional sort of documentation is necessary or required. We really just look at the application holistically. And if there's anything in the student's sort of statement of interest that they want to convey that would help us in evaluating their candidacy, they're certainly welcome to do that. But again, there are no additional steps sort of required to be considered for scholarship support.
Thank you. Switching gears to another topic, one person has asked, how can we best prepare for the advanced degree program? So if there's a student that's interested in applying or studying with us, how could they best prepare to do that? And whichever of you would like to take it.
How to best prepare. I would just say to come with an open mind and be willing to work hard. I mean, I don't know that there was anything I did to prepare for the program once I was admitted, knowing that it was coming that fall or whatever. That's the question, right? Just, unless I'm misunderstanding the question.
Yeah, the question was, how can we best prepare for these programs? That was the question.
Yeah, I mean, that would just be my thinking. I don't know that there's any, and Dr. Reddy might feel differently about it, but I don't think there was any preparation needed, just sort of a mindset of just being prepared to sort of really be open-minded and really ready to learn and work hard. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll just sort of tack on just a couple of small points for international candidates and candidates in our MSL program. So international candidates in our LLM program and candidates in our MSL program, regardless of whether they're US or international. We require those students to take an introduction to US legal studies course so that, when you come into the program, you are equipped to be conversant in some of these issues. We create for our students sort of a glossary of legal terms that have the term, the definition, and then sort of explain in context what those terms mean and how they apply to animal law. And so we really try to do our best to prepare students to more or less hit the ground running, by the time the semester starts in earnest. But a lot of it too, if you're unfamiliar with animal law issues, or you're new to the law as a whole, just sort of learning by engaging and like I said, everybody who comes into dialogue in these classes, they're educating one another, they're educating me, and vice versa. And so, yeah, I would just, echo, Professor von Schlichten's remark about, coordinating your time. I think is probably the most important sort of aspect. So, if you're taking, most students take, 2-3 credit courses a term over the course of 4 terms. And so what do I need to do in terms of balancing or sort of coordinating my obligations to work or to my family? I think that's sort of the biggest hurdle for students. But those students who contemplate how their week is going to look before the semester starts are the students, I think, who strive. And again, that's mostly unrelated to the material and mostly related to sort of just managing the course load.
And just to echo a point on that, it can be a little confusing sometimes in the online program, given that it's fully asynchronous. Just to clarify, but that means that we have the courses are divided into modules, and there are assignments due every week. So to emphasize the point that Dr. Reddy made, yes, preparing and looking at how this would fit into your life and a full-time career, or full-time job, or family obligations, whatever they may be, while the lectures are recorded and the program is fully asynchronous. There are deadlines every single week that relate to the assignments in that, and they differ by course, but just to make that point. One question, and I'm going to kind of reframe it a little bit, but the attendee said we've mainly had questions about the MSL program, so they'd like to get some more information about the LLM program. It's just a big picture question. Before I turn it over, I just want to emphasize that the LLM and MSL students are in the same courses. So what we have discussed today relating to the MSL program and the courses and whatnot, those also apply to the LLM program. But if you could just speak a little more, Dr. Reddy, to the LLM program and what that's like.
Sure. From a student's perspective, you're having almost the exact same experience. If you are coming in with a JD or an LLB, you are necessarily sort of more conversant with some of these sort of legal terms and legal theories. You might be new to animal law, but in terms of the experience that you're getting and what's required of you, it's almost exactly the same. Very few distinctions aside from US LLM candidates take, instead of taking the Introduction to US Legal Studies course, which is 2 credits, they take 2 1-credit emerging topics in animal law courses. And so this year, I've had the honor of teaching insect law as an emerging topics in animal law course. Next semester, we're offering a course taught by Dean Hart about animals, law, and modern media. And the following sort of semester, so fall of 2024, Professor Senatori will be teaching a course on veterinary animal law. And so so some slight differences in the program, but more or less the same experience for all.
And adding to that, a different attendee has asked specifically about the in-person LLM program. If you could share a little bit about what the daily routine is like for our in-person LLM students at Lewis and Clark. They ask about start hours, days, schedule assignments, and I assume to a large degree that depends on which courses they're in, but to the extent you can add some guidance.
Sure. I would recommend, in terms of looking at sort of the courses that we offer in the online compared to the in-person, the best place to do that is the Lewis and Clark course catalog for a given year. And so what's listed there are the courses that are offered in person and online, and those will have, for the in-person courses, the specific dates, the specific times, and then each course is different, is distinct in terms of what it asks of students in that course. And so just like with our online courses, some students or some courses might be focused on producing a paper, an article, really focused on scholarship. Other courses might be more sort of practical focus. So, developing a case or theory to bring against, a concentrated animal feeding operation, or industrial agriculture facility and the like. And so, again, the courses are really distinct. And so students, regardless of whether they're the in-person or the online program, they're really getting a diversity of experiences from the courses.
Thank you for that. Another attendee would like to know if there are any opportunities for publication either in the Animal Law Review Journal or through other journals or publications.
Yes, absolutely. When you come to Lewis and Clark, whether you're here for the in-person or the online program, you're coming to the home of the world's first and longest running animal law review journal, Animal Law, which was, founded 29 years ago. This year, they're working on their 30th volume. And so it's really exciting. In a number of your classes, you will be producing scholarship. So it could be something shorter that could be made into sort of a full-length article or essay, or it could be a full-length article or essay itself. And so the editors-in-chief and the submissions editors at Animal Law Review, they're really encouraging current students and alumni, regardless of what degree level they're at, to submit to the journal. And I'll say too, in some of my courses that are asking students to produce an essay, an article by the end of the semester, one of the things that I ask them to do is do a little bit of a survey of the landscape. So what other journals are out there that would, be amenable to, or that are really kind of looking for the scholarship that they are engaging in. And so students sort of through this act of discovery are finding new sort of opportunities to send their work to get published. And it's really, beneficial for animal advocates of, any discipline, because a lot of these journals may be sort of law focused, maybe more humanities focused, maybe literature focused, maybe, science focused. But because we encourage and invite and really embrace all of these different sort of areas of expertise or disciplines in the program, our students are publishing and producing scholarship that that journals out there are really looking for.
Thank you for that. There's an attendee who would like to know whether coming straight from undergrad would put them at a disadvantage when compared to others who have had more experience. I don't know if which of you would like to speak to that?
Sure. So thus far in the program, I believe we've had maybe 3 or 4 students who have come straight from undergrad, or perhaps with 1 year in between. And those students, what they have found is that the reading is really rigorous, and some of these particular terms and theories are complex. And while that has proved sort of a bit of a hurdle, it's the exact same experience that students have if they are coming for a JD degree, which is sort of the 3-year degree that allows you to practice law, at least here in the United States. And so one of the really compelling things about coming straight through undergrad, and this again is assuming that this is an undergraduate degree that's not law focused, is that you're really engaging in sort of animal law issues. And so you're really putting into practice these legal terms, these legal theories. All of your courses, as Professor von Schlichten, mentioned, are focused on sort of the substantive matter that you're really excited about and that you're here for. And so it's easier, it's heartening to be thinking about these sort of legal issues in the animal law or through an animal law lens. And so yes, there's certainly a degree of difficulty when it comes to sort of reading and how to read sort of legal text, but it's something that everybody goes through regardless of if they've done an LLB abroad or a JD here.
Great, thank you for that. One of my favorite questions, does the curriculum include topics in companion animal law? One of my favorite questions, because that's the course that I teach in the online program. So certainly in that course we do. But I'll also open it up to Dr. Reddy and Professor von Schlichten for other courses. I know it's certainly covered in crimes against animals, as well as fundamentals in animal law and other courses. But I'll let both of you speak to that topic as well, if you have anything you wish to add.
I would just add that I also do touch on companion animal law a little bit in the course I teach, because there is definitely a discussion around shelters and sort of the legalities behind that nonprofit model as well.
I thought you may do that in your course, but I didn't want to speak for you. Anything to add from you, Dr. Reddy?
Yeah, I think you may have mentioned it, but obviously companion animal law and crimes against animals and animal law fundamentals, aquatic animal law, even insect law. We cover, insects as, potential or prospective sort of companion animals, and what does that mean? What does that mean for the law? What does that mean for this, this wide sort of category of beings? And so, the really beautiful thing about animal law is that it cuts across so many areas of our lives. And so even in a course that may not seem to have anything to do with companion animals, one or two modules may implicate significant issues that a companion animal law sort of solely focused course would.
And just to give an example of that, for the global wild animal law course, the exotic pet trade, would be a topic that comes up in that course as well, and perhaps others. So as Dr. Reddy said, it certainly intersects with lots of different areas of animal law. So we currently have one more question in the chat, and we're starting to near the top of the hour. So we probably have time after this for a question or two, if anyone has it. But this question is, do we know yet what the application deadline will be for online MSL for the fall of 2024 admission?
Sure, that's a great question. And so just to note, the spring 2024 admission, so the next sort of cycle, again, is October 8th. And the application deadline for fall of 2024, both for the online MSL and the online LLM, will be either May 1st or May 15th, and that will be sort of firmed up on the website in the next few weeks.
Great. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. So I'd just like to thank everyone for the wonderful questions and for you joining us today. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Reddy to close us out.
Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to be here. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the Center for Animal Law Studies, and I'm going to put in the chat our general email. And so you can reach our animal law program coordinator, Danielle Lopez, at any time just by sending an email there. But if you have any specific questions for any of us, given what we have talked about, don't hesitate to look us up on the Center for Animal Law Studies website. We're all there under sort of the faculty and staff page. We'd be happy to hear from you and answer any additional questions that you have.